So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Natasha Martínez. I'm the program manager at Parallel 18. And welcome to the very last info session that we have before the application round closes this next Friday. On this edition, I will be chatting with the one and only Héctor Jirau, our executive director. Thank you for joining, Héctor. And before we deep dive into the conversation and the topic of this info session, I want to go over a very few details of the program, P18 Gen 13. As you know, the application round is open right now, so you can go ahead and go to parallel18.com to submit your application. But before we start, let's go over what we're going to offer to the founders on this generation. So the founders will receive $40,000 in equity-free funding. They will also have access to our investor network, to our mentor network, to our business connections, and all of our corporate partners. You will also have access to our perks. We have an app especially dedicated to publish our different perks. And we will also give you access to our co-working space and many other different things that we can chat about it a little bit later on. Important also to mention the requirements for this generation. So we're looking for companies that have traction. I know that this have had a little bit of doubts in the last few weeks, but traction, we understood that traction can mean something different for every company. So for this generation, in this application round, we're asking for you to show some kind of traction. And it can be something related to sales, it can be something related to anything that goes along with growth of your company. So if you have sales, if you have users using your product, if it's validated, that will mean traction for us. We're looking for companies that have scalability. So that means that your business model can be easily adapted to other markets. No matter where you are in the world, you can easily adapt your company to either Puerto Rico or other country. We're looking for companies that are early stage. So that means that you have been in operation 3 years or less, and this counts from the moment you start selling. Super important, we're looking for companies that are willing to move to Puerto Rico and enjoy this tropical island, but not only enjoy it, but get involved with the Puerto Rico startup and business ecosystem. And this can mean something different for every company. It can mean that you come here and you get clients, which is the easy part, or you can come in and hire people from the island, or you can race around here. So something that involves you in the Puerto Rico startup and business ecosystem. And don't worry if you don't know anybody here, we were more than happy to help you navigate that too. And one of the things that is our main drivers in Parallel 18 in all of our 5 programs is innovation. So innovation not necessarily means that you are completely tech company, but that you have something that is different from what we already have seen in the market, that it has a different process, that you have a new technology that is intellectual property. So something completely different that it can wow us and we something that we haven't seen before. So now, Hector, should we get to the point of the conversation? You ready?
I was born ready.
Perfect. So first of all, I would like to present myself and the role that I have as program manager. My role basically is to structure the whole program along with the operations team. We have 2 startup specialists that will be participating in this program and will be helping you throughout the 20 weeks of the program. And our role is basically to give out the tools and every single thing that we have in our hand to help you grow and get to that next stage. So it could be either from getting to know different mentors, connecting you with different partners, helping you track your metrics. So anything that is in a range that we can help you grow and scale your businesses, that's basically our role. So Hector, how do you and the rest of the Parallel team will support the startups that join us in the
Well,
next?
that's a great question, Natasha, because I think supporting startups, right, is kind of the central role of Pearl 18, and how we do it goes around on providing access, right? There are many colleagues at other incubators and accelerators that specialize in very niche support, such as in supporting startups getting into market or evaluating and supporting in terms of providing resources for prototypes. we try to centralize ourselves as an access point to those different mentors, those different resources, investors, and corporate partners, so that any startup that goes to our program and is selected and actually align with the vertical that they need. We are in a tropical island, like you mentioned. I think that's the most and the best part of the program, right? We work hard and play tropical. But on top of that, Puerto Rico serves as a soft landing pad for any company that wants to do business in the United States, since Puerto Rico is part of the United States and we share pretty much a similar laws as well. But on top of that, companies that are in mainland United States that want to expand and maybe get access to Latin America, Europe, and other countries, they can actually do so through Puerto Rico via Parallel 18. I think that's one of the most important things that we do to provide access and support to international and our also local startups. It's important to mention, Natasha, we have supported so far more than 500 companies. And these 500 companies, not only from Puerto Rico and the United States, but actually from all over the world. I think we pretty much got Latin America covered already. We have had at least one startup from most of the countries in South and Central America, also in the Caribbean, and in terms of Europe, Africa, Malaysia, Singapore, we have actually supported companies from pretty much everywhere. So we are acknowledgeable of the different laws, regulations, and processes that are required to do business. And we will support those companies in doing business not only in Puerto Rico, but also what encompasses doing business in the United States to scale their companies, whether it is in a hotspot like Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, or similar areas, but also elsewhere. So we are pretty much handful in terms of how we can support them.
Perfect. I wanted to deep dive a little bit more so that everybody knows that not only we have an operations team that will guide you through the whole program, but we also have different departments that are specialized in different topics. So we have the ops team that will help you, like I said, guide you through the whole 20 weeks of the program and make different connections. But we also have a Parallel 18 Connect program that will help you and connect you with different corporate partners. We'll sit down with you and really understand what your business is about in order to make the right connections for you to like possibly sign some partnerships, some contracts, some different things, and help you grow in the island, in your own countries, or if you want to expand to another one. We also have Parallel 18 Ventures, which helps you to connect with the right investor if you are on that stage already. So they have a network of a lot of investors that are willing and looking for the companies that come to the program to see if they can invest in one of our companies. And then we have the marketing team that will help you and serve as a guidance and give you feedback, in everything related to marketing, advertising, public relations in order for you to help you spread the word and get out there. So let's talk a little bit more about the curriculum. What topics are usually covered in this stage? And I'm gonna let you talk about it a little bit more.
Super, super. So maybe I'll start by giving a little bit of a taste of how it works, right? I know we're going to discuss later on the structure of the bootcamp, but
Mhm.
just so that founders know, P18 is our international program, right? We want to make the distinction between Parallel 18 and what P18 is. Parallel 18, think about it as the innovation hub, and P18 has the program. With such, companies that are accepted and selected for participating in P18, like Natasha mentioned, usually have some traction and have validated their markets or at least achieved product market fit. This is very important because the content of the curriculum that we provide, it's tailored around two things. One, the overall and average stage of the companies partaking in the cohort, but also on the specific industries and sectors that are involved in that cohort. We try to tailor the experience to ensure that any founder that is looking for something either niche or specific, they can always find some value within the curriculum. Now, like I said, you guys have already traction. That means that we are not necessarily going to teach you how to do business. You should by now know how to do that. We tailor our offerings specifically on things that are required at this level, usually unit economics, investment readiness and fundamentals, product iterations, managing pivots, growth hacks, scaling to new markets, among other topics that we believe are at the right moment of time for this type of startup. So based on that, you gotta get that offering. We make sure that you guys have to attend these sessions. It's very important. It's mandatory, but we know how busy you are, and that's why we spread them thin so that ensure that you have the rest of the time to do your business, but you can actually get the most out of the curriculum as well. Again, this curriculum is not based on what we believe. It's a book that says that all companies have to go through X or Y. No. Again, we have done more than 500 companies. We pretty much have an idea what you guys need at the stage that you are at. But on top of that, we tailor the experience to ensure that it aligns with your stage, with the level of traction that you have achieved as an entrepreneur, and where you're headed, which is the most important things. Again, we are an international acceleration program. We are tech heavy, but on top of that, we focus a lot on investment principles. We have our own investment team within P18 Ventures. We have our own funds as well, our own investor network. On top of that, we have our own corporate partners network as well. We want to make sure that anybody that gets in aligns both at the knowledge level, hence the curriculum, but also aligns on the roadmap, having availability and access to this type of network. So it's very aligned with the average stage of the companies that are selected for the cohort, and then tailored to optimize the experience to ensure that you get the knowledge, but you also have the time to run your businesses.
Perfect. That is exactly what we do throughout the cohorts. Those mentor sessions that you mentioned obviously come attached to different mentors and our mentor network that we have. And we have seen that throughout these conversations, companies are able to make a 180 turn and get even more and better results and achieve a lot of things based on these conversations that they have with the different mentors that we bring into the table and present to the founders. What can the startup expect from these mentors for this generation specifically?
Definitely. That's a great question, Natasha. So I always like to bring up the conversation that, when you are hiring a consultant or you're looking for a business advisor that is highly vetted or that has some pedigree behind them, costs a lot, right? The rates are extremely expensive for a startup. They can either start close to the $500 per hour, and they can go up as high as $10,000, $20,000 an hour, depending on the pedigree. We know that, and we know the difficulties that startup actually face when they are at this level. That's why we actually take care of getting that type of mentor and putting them in front of our startups. There are many different categories we could categorize, hence the word, this type of mentors, but I'll just mention top three that comes to mind. The number one is previous founders, right? We got founders that have been extremely successful, that have gotten an exit. We have brought founders from unicorns as well to our cohorts. So we have a little bit of variety. The number one thing that we do is that we actually fly them over to Puerto Rico. So just like you are flying over to our island, our mentors, we have a few that are in the island, but we have a few of them that are outside the island. We actually pay for the travel. We pay for and host them in Puerto Rico so that you guys can get that access to sit in front of them, have office hours with them, and get some quality mentorship. That's one. The second are usually business consultants with a pedigree of experience, as we previously mentioned. The same goes to them. If we believe it has a lot of value for our cohort and it's tailored around that cohort, we will find the resource, we will find the mentor, we'll bring him over to the island, fly him in or her if necessary, and have them sit in front of you, getting you some quality knowledge. It can happen as well. Many of these founders, they end up moving to Puerto Rico, and we have a few of them that are still in island. We also have access to them, and usually when they're in island, it's a lot easier. We can actually get them to, visit the co-work space which, by the way, you guys have access to a 30,000 square feet co-working space, which is beautiful and just inaugurated around a year ago. So you'll be amongst the first few hundreds that are actually working from the co-working space. We get those mentors over here. And the third type of mentor is usually driven by our corporate partners. Again, we are partnered up with Microsoft, Amazon, you name it. We usually have access to many of their highly specialized employees, which also serve as advisors, which we can bring over and give you a tailored experience based on what the company needs. Right now, our mentor network has around 200 active mentors. We have many more, but again, we only count those that are actively engaged with us, and it goes around 200 of them, both in island and outside the island, both in the United States, South America, Central America, and Europe. You'll gain access to top talent, and I think the most important thing, you'll get access for free. So I think that's one of the most valuable things that we bring in Parallel 18, that we provide access to this type of individual that usually cost a lot.
Perfect. Another really hot topic, obviously, is the money, the funding that we give out. So as you know, and we previously mentioned, P18 Gen 13 will be receiving $40,000 as a grant, equity-free funding for each of the companies. Can you give us a little bit more detail? How can the startup use it? How is it dispersed and everything?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of the $40,000 grant, right? The primary point of the grant is, of course, covering basic expenses like housing, payroll, operation expenses that are related to the business while you visit Puerto Rico, but also on top of that to support your business expansion and your scaling. We know that at times businesses that enter an international program like P18, which is already, companies that have generated traction, they usually have a very tight balance sheet or a very tight budget to actually expand, and then every dollar that goes in usually goes to payroll, to debt that is owed. We try to provide a cushion. That's why we provide $40,000. It serves more of a cushion so that you can take that scale up more aggressively at this level. Let's say that you usually run payroll on around 8K or 10K per month. 40K in 20 weeks serves as that cushion that allows you to maybe take more risk in less time while you are pushing on that scale. That's one of the things. Second, I think it's important to mention, right? We provide the funding. We don't ask for equity back. We really don't ask for much other than you reporting to us what you're using the money for. I think that's the least that we can ask for when we are pretty much giving you $40,000. We want to know how you're expensing this money, and we provide some rules on how to expense this money. I mentioned a few like housing and payroll, but we make sure that they are aligned with what we would expect during the past 500 or so companies that we have supported, and what is the optimal way to expense this money. People, more than 500 companies means that we have optimized this enough has to make it work for you. And yes, we have considered inflation. We have considered all the macroeconomic conditions that you currently are living, and it works. It's just a matter of how involved as you as a founder, once selected, are to actually expense this money in the most strategically and optimal way to scale up your business. You can make it to that other level. This is a cushion that not many get access to. And again, we don't ask for anything back. And the $40,000 is just a portion of what you can actually achieve through the program. Natasha can spend a whole day telling you about the access to our investment funds, the access to our matching funds, the access to our partners and other programs that we have within Parallel 18 that you can leverage to actually take that company to that next stage. It's just a matter of commitment. And that $40,000 is a commitment from our side. From your side, what we ask is for you to be successful. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, we have a question here just to clarify. We give out $40,000 as a grant. It is, and just to be completely transparent about the process, we divide that payment into the two different disbursements. One at the beginning of the program, and for that you need to comply with different documentation about your business, which you should already have basically. So it's your incorporation documents, the ID of the founders. You need to be incorporated either in Puerto Rico or in the United States with an authorization to do business on the island. And when you have all that documentation, you will be able to sign the grant agreement, which is really important in order for us to give you the money. So at that time, we will give out the first $20,000. Later on the program, at the very middle of the program and on the week number 10, we'll have a midpoint evaluation. Those midpoint evaluations cover different topics, and we will go over the metrics, how you have been growing, how many connections have you had. There's one thing that we also measure, and that is that we ask the founders to give out something back to the community through our give back program. So if you're selected, you will get a lot more detail about this, but it's one, really easy, two, very fun to do. So we basically ask the founders, since you are already founders of a successful company, to give out some kind of knowledge to the entrepreneurship community of the island, or the innovation community of the island. So that's something that we also take into consideration for that second half of the grant. And basically, it's just, as Hector mentioned, it's just to being compliant with the program and make us aware of how you have been using the grant.
So, Natasha, allow me to flip it back to you. So, we already discussed about the overalls of the program, how we support founders and entrepreneurs, but you're the program manager. So, you get the nitty gritty of the day to day and understanding the framework and structure of how the program operates. So, if you can, please give the audience a little bit of commentary around the terms of time, how much commitment they need to provide to the program. I mentioned a few times that program runs for 20 weeks. What is expected of founders during those 20 weeks, and what type of progress do we measure in terms of commitment from the founder, right? We commit $40,000, but we ask for some commitment back. Give us a little taste of both things.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the program, we will meet with every single founder of the 20 that we select, in order to understand really well where are they at, where they ask, what have they been doing in the last few months, to really understand what are their expectations of the program too, and how do they want to grow, what are their goals. So we will establish some metrics on that initial meeting, as we call it. Throughout the 20 weeks, we will have our KPI meetings where we put together smaller groups of startups, and we'll be measuring their growth on a weekly basis. So that will be a 1 hour meeting every single week, usually a Monday, where you will meet with your startup specialist and some other people from the Parallel 18 team, in order to see where you're at, what have been any hiccups if you have some, and it's completely fine if you have some, but that's why we're here, to give you the right tools, to give you the right connections in order to achieve the goals that you have set up at the beginning of the program. So that's 1 full hour that you will have with us and the rest of the companies. And then we have different mentor sessions. This year, and this is something new that we wanted to share with you today, different from the previous cohorts that we have had in the past few years, we are implementing what we're calling the boot camps. So we will put together a few weeks throughout the 20 weeks to give you full on access to educational sessions. So that's why Hector has been mentioning that we'll fly out different mentors, that will put together some educational content in those boot camps that will happen for 4 different weeks throughout the whole program. We will put together sessions with high and top mentors that have worked with us in the past, or new mentors that have really good expertise based on the cohort that we have selected, and we'll give you that content that you need in order to then, on the next few weeks, implement in your companies, in order obviously to help you grow, which is our very and our most impactful metric. So basically, in terms of time frame, which was the question, so you have 1 hour on a weekly basis, and then the boot camps will probably be maybe like at the most 10 hours for those 10 hours a week for 4 weeks. That out of 20, it's not that much of a time.
Yeah,
So
give or take.
Give or take. And then the rest of the hours that you have on a week, we really want you to focus on your own companies, and then you will have access to one-on-one office hours from different mentors that will have availability either on the community platform that we have, or that we make a specific intros to each and one of you. So that's
Pretty much it. And I think it's worth mentioning, right? So the reason that we provided this bootcamp is to ensure that you guys get the most amount of knowledge and problem solving up front during the beginning of the program, rather than spreading it around, around the whole 20 weeks. This way, if you are struggling, let's say with some unit economics on realizing your first sales or your conversions from free users to paid users, if it's a subscription-based model, you can actually address and tackle that from the get-go. So most of the things that we believe that we will understand once we see what are the companies that are selected aligns with, we'll make sure to tackle those first. And then during the second part, like Natasha mentioned, you get to tackle the other. That way, you tackle them fast and you address them by actually being able to spend time working on your company and applying what you just learned. So great. So Natasha, another thing that I think is very important, and we always like to mention, if you actually took the time to be here with us and to connect to this info session, means that you are very committed, or at least seems that you're very committed to actually getting into the program. So just to give you a little bit of flavor and tips on how to make sure that your application is successful, being clear and understanding what we are looking for, it's very important. With that in mind, Natasha, can you give us a little bit of a taste on what goes into consideration when we're evaluating the innovation in a company, and what type of innovation does the program looks for when it is, evaluating these companies, and when the selection committee gets into the table to see which companies align best with the mission and which companies we can actually support the most, which is another important thing around innovation.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that we look every time that we sit down and evaluate the companies is that wow factor. Like what is the component that makes your company completely unique from what we have seen throughout the last few years or what we have seen already on the market. So something that makes you stand out from the competition is something that we're looking for. It doesn't matter that you tackle one industry that has a lot of companies already, but it's that component that makes either a process more faster, more seamless, different. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you have a completely new technology that has intellectual property, that would be amazing. But it can be something as simple as something that nobody has done in that specific way. So anything innovative is, as I mentioned, something that is completely different from what we have seen in the last few years, and that makes you stand out from the rest of the companies. In the application form, you will have the opportunity, you have very specific questions that you will be able to answer this innovation part. So make sure that be very clear, very concise, but make sure to include all those specific points or pinpoints that make you stand out from the rest.
So that's extremely important. I think it all comes up to, right, what innovation is and how we can consider innovation. But as long as an applicant is clear and transparent about what you're building, it's easier for us to understand and easier for our judges and selection committee to understand. Remember, guys, as in anything with business, there's a human being on the other side of the table. You need to address them as such. Be clear, be concise, be precise, and you'll get to the other side. And again, if your business, for whatever reason, does not align with what we're looking for, it works best for both. Because again, if your business gets in, but we don't really have a way to support you, then you're pretty much wasting your time, and we're pretty much covering a spot that maybe another entrepreneur could take. And on top of that, like I said, you will be better off somewhere else. So just make sure, like Natasha said, that we're looking for something that's highly innovative, but also practical and functional.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to be as clear as possible on your application. So, Natasha, onboarding on what we just discussed, any other advice that you consider important for startups that are looking to apply based on your experience managing P18, and what things that are easy mistakes that many applicants do that you want to bring out?
Yeah, I think that one of the main things is being like very concise about the answers. You don't have to put a whole monograph on each answer in order to get a very specific point or answer a question. I also wanted to mention, in terms of that innovation part, you have the opportunity, or we are requesting a video where you will be uploading of yourself, explaining what you do in a very short time. It doesn't have to be shouldn't be more than 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Where you explain different and very specific things, like why is your team the perfect team uh to run this company? What is the innovation that you're building or that you have? How much traction do you have? And how are you going to leverage your presence on the island? So that's something that we ask. And you have a second opportunity to upload a demo of your platform, of your solution. So in that way, you will be able to not only explain in a reading answer, but actually show what your product or your solution does. I wanted to mention too that we changed the application process from last year, and right now it's really simple and very straightforward. We promise you it will not take you more than 5 minutes to answer the first form. This time we divide the application round in two different phases. So you have a first phase, which is a less than 5 minute form, where you will ask very straightforward questions. So this will ask questions like, what is your industry? What stage are you at? Give us a blurb of your company. How many founders do you have? So very specific questions. And the reasoning behind that is that we want to make sure that you actually comply with the requirements of
Yeah.
the program in order for them to send you more questions, more very specific questions about your solution, about your company, about your stage, what you're looking for, and everything else. And once you complete the first form and you pass to the second one, you will then answer a lot more in detail what we want to see. So basically that's that. And if you go to that second round, and it's very important to mention that you need to keep an eye on your email, because we will be sending out an email if you pass that first questionnaire and then go to the next phase. That second application, it will probably not take you 5 minutes. It will be probably a little bit longer, because we do ask very specific questions about your solution in order to really understand your company, where you're at, and what you're looking for.
So thank you so much, Natasha. That pretty much brings up a few of the mistakes that usually founders make. I'm not being clear, and of course, not understanding how the structure works for this application. And like you just mentioned, we made it easier this year. It should be very straightforward for founders. And again, we only have 20 slots, which I know it's not that many, but there's a reason behind it, and it's because we'll enjoy actually being very, very familiar with the companies and being one-on-one based with them, right? We want to make sure that anything that you guys need, we can address as soon as possible throughout the program. And if we were to get more companies, we will be highly diluted at that process. So with that on said, thank you so much, Natasha, for sharing all this information, the structure, and of course for leading this effort with P18, because I know it's an adventure whenever application dates come in. And this core, again, is going to be very special. It's our 10th anniversary, so you can expect a lot of surprises. But also it's highly competitive because we already have, I'm seeing hundreds of applications now. So make sure to be clear, concise, precise, and to submit your applications early. There's no way an application can extend after deadline. So ensure that you will do it with them. And Natasha just mentioned it takes you 5 minutes to do your first form. After the first form, once evaluated that you are actually compliant with the minimum requirements, you'll get the invitation to actually apply for the formal evaluation. And that way, we can ensure that we are both aligned. Thank you so much, Natasha, for the opportunity.
I want to take some time. If anybody has any specific questions, you are more than welcome to put them on the Q&A box or in the chat. I have two questions here, basically the same. They're asking if you have to be incorporated in order to apply or participate. And this is a very this is a concern of everybody usually. So in order to apply for the program, you don't have to be incorporated yet. But in order to start the program, you have to. So in order to apply, you can apply as a DBA, you can apply with a company incorporated in a different country. But once you are selected, we'll give out almost a month and a few weeks in order for you to get incorporated either in the US or in Puerto Rico. if you are incorporated in the US, you have to also have the authorization of doing business in Puerto Rico in order to then sign the grant agreement, which is the one that will give you access to everything that we are offering to you, and also give you access to the grant funding. So hopefully that your application will not be denied, to answer the straight question that you that you put in there. So yeah, I think we covered those two. Does anybody else have any specific questions? More than happy to answer them right now. If you don't have any specific questions right now or don't want to share them here, more than welcome to ask any specific questions through our email. So you can email us at info@parallel18.com. And I just want to make the reminder, I know that we have mentioned this a few times during the last 40 minutes, but you have until this Friday, the 25th, to submit your application. And this will be April 25th at midnight, Atlantic Standard Time. So it's our time at midnight. So make sure that you submit those applications in a timely manner. Anything else?
There is another question in the Q&A.
Let's see. Does it mean you register where you are in Puerto Rico or when you're still in local country? Can you explain a little bit more? I don't know if we already answered that. I mean, you can be incorporated in your own country. In order to participate in the program, you need to be either incorporated or have a subsidiary in the US or in Puerto Rico.
One of the easiest way that, at least what we see from companies, is that they incorporate in Delaware and then they apply for an operation certificate for Puerto Rico, which means that they are allowed to do business in the island. Remember, Puerto Rico, as being part of the United States, you don't need to make a double registration in Puerto Rico of your business for it to operate. You just get basically a permit that says, well, you're part of the US, your company's based in Delaware, you can, or Florida, or whatever you want to base your company at, and you get that permit to do business in the island. That's what we request. But of course, in order to do that, you have to be incorporated. And like Natasha mentioned, to apply, there's no need. But after you get into the program, the only way that we can support businesses is if they are incorporated.
Yeah. And if you are selected in the program, we will send a welcome package, which will have all the instructions, all the documents that you need to have. And even more, we have a list of potential corporate partners or service providers that are able to help you in this process. So don't worry about it. Worry about submitting the application now.
Very important.
Okay, another question. Is it possible to apply and get in with only 1 year of operational sales or yeah, of course. We're asking for 3 years or less. So yeah, if you have 1 year of operations and you already have revenue, that's amazing. Perfect. Any other questions? I think we don't have anything else. So yeah, let's close it out, Hector. So another reminder. Another question just pop up. We have a fiscal partner in the US. Does it work or do we have to be fully incorporated in the US?
So if you have a fiscal partner, then the fiscal partner has to apply to the program. It has to be the company, the one that is applying to the program. And since we have a lot of, we as a huge organization, we get audited, and as such, all our business operations and cash flows have to be very, very scrutinized. And we, at the moment, we only support companies directly. And as such, if you are based, for example, in Europe, you can always use a holding company based in the US, and we can more than happy support you through that holding company, which is within jurisdiction. But in case of using a fiscal partner, it has to either you or your company be 100% wholly owned and serving as a holding company, or it has to be the majority of the shareholders have to be the same of the applicant company, for which in case it's easier just to apply directly with the company.
Exactly. Another question, Hector, can the company be in prototype stage without revenue? Because I'm still in the validation phase.
So unless it is a heavy research and development type of operation, which has, instead of financial traction, it has a IP or it has R&D
Milestones.
traction,
Mhm.
you can apply. Otherwise, if it's a business like a SaaS, e-commerce, or related, it may be a little bit too early for the company to apply. What we consider applicants that are aligned on heavy R&D operations would be, for example, a biotech company applying, and they're currently at their preclinical levels. We're looking to submit or ready for a pre-IND process to validate the molecule. Then that type of company we can support at that stage because they do have a IP traction. But if it's a company that you're building an AI agent that it's still on prototyping phase and not necessarily ready to actually go out there, it may be a little bit too early on that side. Again, if it's deep tech or heavy R&D or heavy IP related, it can be considered. That's definitely yes. But if it's a business model that's around as a service based on a platform that not necessarily encompasses heavy IP or heavy R&D, then it could be a little bit early because we do not maybe have the resources for companies that early. We have them more for companies that are ready to build on traction or that have heavy IP and R&D traction.
Mhm. I have another question on the chat. I applied and submitted the first application form. What's next after this stage? Great question. So after the 25th, when the first application round closes, we will evaluate all the applications that we receive. And then if you actually comply with the requirements of the program, we will send a second form. We will give you a specific time to answer those questions, and those questions are basically to get to know you and your solution a lot more. So you have opportunity to write down what's your innovation. If you have questions about competition, you have questions about your team, you have questions about your experience as a founder. So that will be sent out next week. After we verify that the applications that we have received actually qualify or not.
Another question in the Q&A.
Let me check it out. What if we have been operating almost for 7 years by now, but we have pivoted to an online format and been doing so for less than 3 years? In other words, we're kind of see this new shift as another business. Good question.
Okay. So that one's tricky. You need to clarify that on your application so that the evaluation committee and judges can actually understand what your business has gone through and why it makes sense for you to actually hop into this type of program. The issues that we have with companies that have been for more than 3 years operating on first, since we are very investor oriented, usually creates a barrier of entry for many of their investors. They don't necessarily enjoy companies that have been established for a long time and have not achieved enough traction for a program like ours, right? Maybe if you've been running for a business for 7, 10 years, you're already, generating a couple millions of dollars. There's not much that we can do for a business it's already selling millions of dollars, right? You already know how to run your business. You already know how to get your clients. Probably technical assistance programs could support you better. But if it's a business that is pivoting because, it was incorporated 7 years ago, but started operating 2 years ago, for example, then that's a different story. That's why it's important to clarify on your application how long you've been in business for, contrasted to how long you've been incorporated. It's not the same thing for us. Well, it's not the same thing at any level, right? You can be incorporated 10 years ago, but if you started operating this year, then your business has only 1 year of operation. It's been incorporated for 10, but been operating for 1. So there's a huge distinction that we always make, but the best way for us to understand it better is for you to clarify as an entrepreneur, why do you consider that your business is at that level that they can actually get some benefit from being in our program compared to maybe, just getting some good advisors or consultant to move it forward.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's see, we have a few more minutes, 2 more questions if you have. Let's see. Bueno, nothing else is popping up right now. Remember, if you have any other specific questions, we're more than happy to answer them through our email. and which is info@parallel18.com. If you have already opened the application, hit that submit form. Make sure to hit the submit form. If you haven't opened the application form, you can go directly to parallel18.com and you will see a button at the top of the page where you'll be able to get access to the application. And remember that if you have already submitted the application, next week we'll let you know if you've gone through the second phase of the application in order to submit the more specific questions. Yeah, I think that will be it for now. Make sure to stay tuned to our social media where we publish different and more content about this application round. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you all in Puerto Rico very soon.
Super. Thank you so much,
Héctor.
Natasha, for taking the time to be with us and hopping into the call, and for, of course, hosting me as well here. Super excited to meet a few of you, those that get in. So let the competition begin.
See you.
Ciao,
Bye-bye.
ciao.